Here we are, steaming on the Trangia. It took 50 minutes to raise steam, but we got there. Steam blowers going. Alcohol vaporising furiously because of it. Water level getting a bit low, but we have steam. Nice. So here's me trialling the Lixada camping gas burner. I took the pot stand tripod off it and it's just sitting here in a little column of bits of spare stock metal just to get what looks to me to be a reasonable height, just not far below the bottom of the boiler. And it's burning moderately because if I turn it up higher, seems to spread the flame a lot. I'll just have to experiment with this, see how it goes. Well, we appear to have viable steam here. The gauge is sitting somewhere around 50-ish. The gas is burning away and the steam out valve is open. And if the pressure starts to drop, I guess I can always, it's a bit too open now, I can always turn up the heat. So, this is looking quite good. So far I've discovered that this modified Lixada camping gas burner, used with this temporary boiler stand here, will produce quite good steam in the boiler quite quickly. It can get up to making serious steam in about 8 minutes, and it seems to maintain pressure quite well. So I'm optimistic about that one. However, I would like to explore some kind of more homespun kind of alternatives. So we have these two contenders here. This is an 8-wick kerosene stove with a catalytic converter, which is basically a kind of secondary combustion chamber running on kerosene, and these produce quite a hot flame. Now I've got the lights off in here, so basically it costs less than £10 and shipped all the way from China with the shipping inclusive. So if it doesn't work, it's no great loss. But we'll go into more detail on this later. This is just an overview. So 8 wicks, a kerosene and a vaporising chamber above for secondary combustion. And now also we have this, which is a pressurising kerosene stove all the way from India for the princely sum of £22.99, and that includes, well, free shipping basically. It's similar to the Primus style stove with a pump. You pressurise the tank and you have to preheat the burner and so on and so forth. So I'm going to try both of these with the boiler. They should be quite hot, especially this one, I would have thought. I mean, it's designed to do some serious cooking, and it's a pressurising, vaporising stove. So even if they're not quite as hot as the Lixada gas burner is, you know, I'm optimistic that they'll be hot enough to raise and maintain steam. So after some experimentation, if these two are successful, well, all of them actually, I'm going to do some nice customising work hopefully, which should be quite fun. So we'll come back on that later. Okay, so we're going to try this one first. The vaporising pressurised kerosene stove from India. As I said, it operates a bit like a old style Primus stove. There's the burner underneath there. The square frame, of course, will all be taken off once I know that this is going to work okay, but I don't want to start hacking up the stove before I've tested it. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't work. We know that the boiler seems to run pretty well on gas, and to me this flame, when I tried it before, it seemed that the heat would give the gas burner a run for its money. although I don't really know the science of these things. Anyway, it's all set up. The boiler's been half filled with water, and I'm just going to get the stove pressurised, light it, and then see what it takes in terms of time to get to steam raising pressure. The top of the burner is maybe just a little bit further below the bottom of the boiler than I'd like it to be. I think for a test it should be reasonably okay, so we'll see how we go. So there's the meth's flame in the spirit cup, the meth's burning just to heat up the vaporising tubes of the kerosene burner. So once that meth burns down a bit and the tubes get hot, we'll start pumping kerosene, which should hopefully vaporise and set the burner going. Well, we have liftoff. That looks formidable, but I'm afraid the boiler's too high above the flame really, because the flame isn't really right up into the bottom of the boiler. It's spreading across the steel plate that the boiler's sitting on. However, we'll leave it be just now and see what happens. I think there's a serious heat being delivered there, and I don't think it's going to be very long till we start getting some pressure. And here we are, just for fun, with the lights off. Groovy. 8 minutes into the burn and the gauge is giving us 25 psi. It's flaming, which is quite good. I think if I turned the blower on it would really pull it out, but I'm not going to do that yet. The gas was quicker. It was about 50 psi after 8 minutes, but I think that might be partly, well, the gas probably does burn water really, but the nozzle of the burner of the gas flame was right up inside the boiler, whereas this needs to be adjusted a bit. There's also another type of burner for these kind of stoves. This is a roarer burner. There's another type of a silent burner. The silent burner apparently doesn't burn as hot, but it might actually direct the flame better, so I'm going to buy one and try it out. £8 from eBay, from India, you know. It's worth experimenting. But I think overall, I'm not doing too badly here. We're over 25 now. I'm just going to let it climb and then see how it goes. This is truly beautiful though. What an organic process. I love it. Okay, well, we had blow off of the safety valve at 12 minutes. And sorry, 50 psi at 12 minutes and blow off of the safety valve at about 15. I want to show you how much the steam blower affects this pressurised flame. So the steam blower is off, and then just turn the steam blower on. You see how it draws the flame up into the bottom of the boiler? It's good. Off, on, off, on. And that's just a little bit of blower as well. So, next up we have the Green Goddess. This looks quite handsome in a funny sort of way. However, if it does get used, it's only really this core burner element that's going to be used. They'll probably even change the tank for a narrower one. But yeah, we'll see how it performs. Remember, this is 8 wicks, it's not pressurised stove, but it does vaporise the kerosene because it has a kind of secondary combustion catalytic converter type thing in there. So, I know it gets pretty hot. Whether it'll perform as well as the Blue Mini, I don't know. So there's the 8 wicks, adjustable via this mechanism here, and then round the outside of that you have these 3 different layers of housing, in which the kerosene is vaporised and burns with little dots of blue flame emerging from these holes, and the whole thing glows red hot. So we're on. It looks pretty innocuous, this stove. with its almost invisible blue flame, but it's not. It produces a frightening amount of heat. However, I do feel that it's a bit wide. The flame's spreading up under there. You may not be able to see it. Yeah, you probably can a little bit. It's spreading rather than going up into the bottom of the boiler. I kind of expected that. There might be something to be said for playing around with the height of the bottom of the boiler relative to the top of the stove. But we'll see how it goes in this initial test. Well, we're 12 minutes in and the gauge isn't even off the peg yet, whereas the blue stove had it at 50 psi at this point. I think this could do to be higher above the flame, but even still, it's, I say higher above the flame, it's sitting at the same height a pot would, but of course a pot's a whole different ballgame in terms of the area that gets heated. But you know, I think that perhaps this just doesn't have that edge of aggression that it needs to raise steam. It's a nice wee stove, I like it, and it was very cheap. If I don't use it for this, I'll keep it as a wee stove for making tea on outdoors or whatever, because it's lovely. But I'm not seeing anything so far that recommends it for use over the pressurising one. I'm not sure that there'd be anything to be gained from that. Also, this burner is quite bulky, so I'd need to build some kind of a bigger... Well, it would be more difficult to accommodate in the setup I have in mind, let's put it that way. Still, I'm going to bear with it and just see what happens here. If it starts to rise at all, I'll maybe just turn the steam blower on and see if that pulls that big lazy soft flame. Well, it's not such a lazy flame, but it's quite a soft flame, and if it gets pulled into the tubes, that might make a difference, but I don't think we've got enough to even get the steam blower going yet. So this, I don't think is going to cut it, but it doesn't matter, because that, I think, will. So that's 20 minutes in and we're still under 25 psi in the gauge. At this point I don't see any point in just standing waiting for it because it's way slower than the other one. But what I will do is turn on the steam blower and see what effect that has. The steam blower's on, you can probably hear it, and it is indeed having the effect of focusing that flame right into the centre of the boiler, which is probably making quite a considerable difference. And indeed, the gauge is climbing now. Almost seems paradoxical, you know, you open a valve and it makes the pressure rise, but of course the cost is in water consumption. But you know, this is better with the steam blower on for sure, but I still don't think that it's got any advantages over the other one. Could be up to a usable pressure here, but whether this has got enough oomph to maintain a working pressure, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to need to try this again once I've built a little engine to run with it. That's the only way that I'm really going to know what works and what doesn't. At the moment, I'm not throwing anything away. They both have possibility, I think, but the blue one's better. So let's see how it goes once I've built an engine, and that will be a fair bit of time down the line because I'm in the middle of putting digital readout on my milling machine before I start that. Hey ho. Just discovered another issue, which is that I've noticed that sometimes when the safety valve blows off, which happened there after the steam blower had brought the pressure up, sometimes that causes the flame to go out. I'm not quite sure why, whether it's some water dripping down or whether it's, I don't know, something to do with pressure change. But it put the burners and both of these burners out in both of these stoves. But with this one, it's going to be it's going to be impossible really to get in and relight if that happens, because it's all enclosed, so the whole thing would need to be taken apart. Whereas with this one, it's a simple matter of reaching in with one of these long lighter things and just reigniting it. So the verdict, I don't think this is going to do. I think I'm going to shelf this and keep it as a nice little stove. This one shows promise to rival, I would say almost to rival the intensity of gas, and I think that it's likely to end up being customised and made to look pretty funky with all that square framework taken off and, you know, some other kind of support built in. And we'll see, but it needs to be tested in an engine. Over and out.